The eviction notice was printed on cheap white paper, but it felt like lead in my hands. 72 hours. That's all I had left before my daughter, and I would be on the street. I sat on the edge of my secondhand couch in our studio apartment in Queens, the paper trembling as I read it for the third time, hoping the words would somehow change. They didn't. 3 months behind on rent, and Mrs. Chen, my landlord, had finally run out of patience. I couldn't blame her. I'd been making promises I couldn't keep since July. Mama? The small voice pulled me from my spiral. I quickly folded the notice and shoved it between the couch cushions before turning to face my 5-year-old daughter. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Emma stood in the doorway of our makeshift bedroom area, separated from the living space by a curtain I'd hung to give her some sense of privacy. Her dark curls were messy from sleep, her brown eyes still heavy with exhaustion, even though it was almost 7 in the morning. She clutched her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Hoppy, against her chest. "Good morning, baby." I forced brightness into my voice, the same performance I'd been giving for months. "Did you sleep okay?" "I'm hungry." Emma patted across the worn carpet in her 2 small pajamas. I needed to buy her new ones, but that fell somewhere between impossible and laughable on my current budget. "I know, sweetie. Let me make you breakfast." I moved to our kitchenette, which was really just a hot plate, a mini fridge, and a microwave crammed into a corner. I opened the cabinet and stared at our supplies. Half a box of store-brand cereal. No milk. We'd run out yesterday. A jar of peanut butter with maybe 2 tablespoons left. 3 slices of bread. My paycheck from the diner wouldn't come until Friday. 3 days away. And even then, it would barely cover groceries after I set aside money for the subway and Emma's daycare. The daycare I was also 2 weeks behind on. I made Emma a peanut butter sandwich and poured her a bowl of dry cereal, setting both on our small folding table. "Is there milk?" she asked, looking at the cereal. "Not today, baby. But you can have juice." I poured the last of the apple juice into her plastic cup, making a mental note to add it to the impossibly long shopping list. Emma ate without complaining, and that somehow made it worse. She'd learned not to ask for things we couldn't afford. What 5-year-old should have to learn that lesson? I showered quickly in our tiny bathroom, the water pressure weak and the temperature never quite hot enough. The mirror was cracked in the corner, a spiderweb fracture that distorted my reflection. At 28, I looked older. Exhausted. My light brown skin had lost its glow, dark circles shadowed my eyes, and my black hair hung limp around my shoulders because I couldn't afford a decent haircut. Cassie Mendez, I thought bitterly. Former college student with big dreams. Current failure. I'd been studying business administration at Hunter College when I met Derek Williams 3 years ago. He'd been charming, successful, working in finance with a corner office in Midtown. He'd swept me off my feet with expensive dinners and promises of a future together. Then I got pregnant. Derek's charm evaporated overnight. Suddenly, he wasn't ready for a family. His career was at a critical point. He needed to focus. The excuses poured out in a steady stream, each one designed to absolve him of responsibility. He'd offered money for an abortion. When I refused, he offered a one-time payment to make the problem go away. When I told him I was keeping the baby, he disappeared completely. Changed his number. Blocked me on everything. His lawyer sent a single letter stating that Derek Williams disputed paternity and would not be providing financial support. I dropped out of school in my 3rd trimester, giving birth alone. Raised Emma in a series of increasingly smaller apartments as my savings evaporated and job prospects narrowed to positions that didn't require a degree. Now I worked doubles at a 24-hour diner in Brooklyn, serving eggs and coffee to people who often didn't leave tips. The pay was minimum wage. The hours were brutal. And it still wasn't enough. "Mama, we need to go." Emma had finished eating and was standing by the door with her little backpack, ready for daycare. "Right, yes. Let's go, baby." We took the subway from Queens into Brooklyn, Emma pressed against my side as the morning rush crowd jostled around us. She was so small, So fragile in this city of sharp edges and careless people. I kept my arm around her shoulders, creating a barrier between her and the world. At the daycare, Miss Patricia greeted us with her usual warm smile, though I saw concern flicker in her eyes when she looked at me. "Cassie, do you have a moment?" My stomach dropped. "Of course." Miss Patricia led me to her small office while Emma joined the other children in the play area. The office smelled like crayons and industrial cleaner. "I hate to bring this up," Miss Patricia began, her voice gentle, "but you're 2 weeks behind on payment. Our policy is that after 3 weeks, we have to ask you to make other arrangements." "I know. I'm so sorry." The words felt useless, inadequate. "My paycheck comes Friday. I can pay 1 week then, and I'll have the rest by the following week. I promise." Miss Patricia's expression was sympathetic but firm. "I understand you're in a difficult position. Emma is a wonderful child, and I hate the thought of her losing her spot here. But I have to follow the rules. Please." The desperation in my voice was humiliating, but I was past pride. "She loves it here. You're the only stability she has right now. 1 more week. Just give me 1 more week." Miss Patricia sighed. "1 week, Cassie. But if payment isn't current by next Friday, I'll have to let Emma go." "I'm sorry." I nodded, blinking back tears. "Thank you. I'll have it. I promise." The promise tasted like ash in my mouth. I had no idea how I'd keep it. Work was the usual chaos. The diner was packed with the morning rush, everyone wanting their coffee yesterday, their eggs cooked precisely right, their toast the exact shade of golden brown. I moved on autopilot, refilling cups, taking orders, delivering plates, cleaning tables. My feet ached. My back screamed. My head pounded from lack of sleep and too much stress. "Cassie, table 6 needs their check." Marco, the other server on shift, called out. I grabbed the check and headed to table 6, where a middle-aged businessman sat reviewing documents while nursing his 3rd cup of coffee.
"Here you go, sir."
"Whenever you're ready." He didn't look up, just pulled out his wallet, threw down exact change, and left. No tip. I collected the money and cleared his table, adding the $1.75 in coins to my apron pocket. After an 8-hour shift, I'd made maybe $30 in tips. Barely enough for groceries, let alone rent or daycare. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from an unknown number. "Cassie, it's Jennifer from college. I know it's been a while, but I'm organizing the alumni charity gala next weekend. We'd love to see you there. It's black tie, Saturday at 7 p.m. at the plaza. Hope you can make it." I stared at the message, a bitter laugh bubbling up. The plaza. Black tie. A world I no longer belonged to if I ever had. I started to delete the message, but something made me hesitate. Jennifer Chong had been my roommate freshman year, before life had derailed all my plans. She'd always been kind, genuinely nice in a way that felt rare. And she'd included an attachment. An invitation with a +1 option. I thought about Derek. He ran in those circles now, the young finance professionals who attended charity galas and networked over champagne. He'd probably be there, with whatever perfect girlfriend had replaced me in his life. The thought of seeing him again made my stomach churn. But another thought pushed through the anxiety. He'd erased Emma from his life. Pretended she didn't exist. Moved on as if we were a problem he'd successfully solved. Maybe it was time he saw what his choices had cost. Not for revenge, exactly, but for acknowledgement. For Emma to be real to him, even if just for one night. I replied before I could talk myself out of it. "Thanks, Jennifer. I'll be there." Now I just needed to figure out how to afford a dress, a babysitter, and subway fare to Manhattan. And somehow not get evicted in the meantime. The week crawled by in a blur of double shifts and mounting anxiety. I picked up every extra hour the diner would give me, working until my feet bled and my exhaustion felt like a physical weight. By Friday, I'd managed to scrape together enough for 1 week of daycare and bare minimum groceries. The eviction notice deadline loomed, but I'd negotiated a temporary reprieve with Mrs. Chen by paying half of what I owed and promising the rest within 2 weeks. The dress problem solved itself in an unexpected way. "Mama, what's this?" Emma had been playing in my closet, which I usually discouraged, but I'd been too exhausted to notice until she emerged holding a garment bag. My heart stuttered. I knew what was in that bag. Bring it here, baby. Emma dragged the bag across the floor. I unzipped it carefully, revealing the dress inside.
It was from my old life.
A floor-length gown in deep emerald green that I'd bought for a college formal during sophomore year, back when I had scholarship money and student loans that felt manageable. Back when I'd been dating a pre-med student who'd taken me to nice restaurants and told me I was beautiful. Before Derek. Before everything fell apart. I pulled the dress out, silk whispering as it caught the light. It was simple but elegant, with a fitted bodice and a flowing skirt that would hide my too-thin frame. The color made my brown skin glow, or at least it had 3 years ago. It's pretty, Emma said, touching the fabric with reverent fingers. It is, isn't it? The dress still fit, barely. I'd lost weight from stress and irregular meals, but the bones of the garment held. With my hair down and the cheap makeup I'd been hoarding, I could almost pass for someone who belonged at a plaza gala. Almost. Saturday came too quickly and not fast enough. I'd arranged for Emma to stay with Maria, our elderly neighbor who sometimes watched her in exchange for help with grocery shopping. Maria had clucked over how thin Emma was getting, pressing homemade empanadas into her hands and shooting me looks full of concern and unspoken judgment. You work too hard, Mija, Maria said as I prepared to leave. That girl needs her mama home more. I know. The guilt was a constant companion. I'm trying. Try harder. But her expression softened. You look beautiful.
Go.
Have one nice night. The subway ride to Manhattan felt surreal. I sat in my emerald dress surrounded by Saturday night crowds, tourists heading to Times Square, couples dressed for Broadway shows. I clutched my small purse, which contained exactly $30, my phone, my ID, and a tube of lipstick. The Plaza Hotel rose before me like a palace, all gleaming marble and golden light. Luxury cars lined the circular drive, disgorging women in designer gowns and men in custom tuxedos. Wealth radiated from every surface, every person, every careless laugh. I didn't belong here anymore. But I climbed the steps anyway, my chin up, my shoulders back, channeling confidence I didn't feel. The ballroom was spectacular. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across marble floors. Tables draped in white linen surrounded a dance floor where couples already swayed to orchestra music. Everywhere I looked, I saw success, wealth, the easy confidence of people who'd never wondered how to feed their children. Cassie. Jennifer appeared from the crowd, stunning in a silver gown, her smile genuine. You made it. I'm so glad you could come. She pulled me into a hug, and I tried not to notice how her perfume probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Thanks for inviting me, I said. This is incredible. Isn't it? The Alumni Association really outdid themselves this year. She linked her arm through mine. Come on, let me introduce you to some people. There are tons of folks from our year here. The next hour passed in a parade of vaguely familiar faces. People I'd known in college, back when I'd been one of them. They were polite, asking what I was up to now with that particular tone that expected to hear about careers and accomplishments. I'm working in food service, I said, which was technically true, taking some time to figure out my next move. They nodded with expressions that tried to be encouraging but mostly conveyed pity. Then they'd mention their jobs at consulting firms or tech companies, their recent promotions, their upcoming trips to Europe. I smiled and nodded and felt increasingly like an imposter in a borrowed dress. Then I saw him. Derek stood near the bar, exactly as I remembered, but somehow more polished. His suit was expensive, his hair perfectly styled, his posture radiating the easy confidence of someone whose life had gone exactly according to plan. And beside him, draped on his arm like an accessory, was a blonde woman in a dress that probably cost $5,000. My breath caught. My heart hammered. 3 years of anger and hurt and exhaustion crystallized into a single burning point in my chest. He hadn't seen me yet. I could leave. Slip out before he noticed, preserve whatever dignity I had left. But then Emma's face flashed in my mind. Her two small pajamas.
Her question about milk.
The way she never complained about being hungry because she'd learned it didn't change anything. I moved toward the bar. Derek's eyes slid past me once, twice, then snapped back with sudden recognition. His face went pale, then red, then settled into an expression of forced neutrality. Cassie. He said my name like it was a problem he'd thought he'd solved. This is unexpected. Derek. I kept my voice level. It's been a while. The blonde woman looked between us with dawning curiosity. Do you two know each other? We used to, Derek said quickly. Back in college. Cassie, this is Madison. My fiancé. The word hit like a slap. Fiancé. He was getting married. Building the family he told me he wasn't ready for.
Just not with me.
Congratulations, I managed. What are you doing here? Derek's tone was just slightly too sharp, edged with the panic of someone whose past was colliding with his carefully constructed present. I didn't think you ran in these circles anymore. The implication was clear. You don't belong here. Jennifer invited me. Alumni Association. I kept my chin up. I should go say hello to some other people. Nice meeting you, Madison. I turned to leave, but Derek's voice stopped me. How's life treating you, Cassie? Still living in, where was it? Queens. The dismissiveness in his tone was deliberate. Madison giggled, the sound like breaking glass. I'm managing, I said. Derek sipped his drink. That's good. I heard you had to drop out of school. Such a shame. You had real potential. Had. Past tense. As if I was already a has-been at 28. I had other priorities, I said carefully. Right, of course. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Well, it was good seeing you. Take care of yourself. Dismissal. Complete and final. I walked away before he could see the tears burning behind my eyes. I moved through the crowd blindly, looking for an exit, a bathroom, anywhere I could break down in private. Instead, I collided with something solid.
A chest.
A very broad, very expensive suit-covered chest. Careful there. The voice was deep, with a slight roughness that suggested cigars and late nights. I looked up. And up. The man I'd walked into was at least 6'3", with shoulders that strained against his perfectly tailored tuxedo. His face was all hard angles, sharp cheekbones, and a strong jaw shadowed with the faintest stubble. His hair was dark, styled back from his forehead, and his eyes were an unusual gray-blue, like storm clouds over the ocean. He was handsome in a way that felt dangerous. Not pretty boy handsome like Derek. This was something else. Something that made my heart stutter for entirely different reasons than panic. I'm so sorry, I stammered, stepping back. I wasn't watching where I was going. Clearly. But his lips curved slightly, amusement flickering in those storm cloud eyes. Are you all right? You look upset. I'm fine. The lie was automatic. He studied me with an intensity that made me feel exposed. Like he could see through my emerald dress to the eviction notice, the empty refrigerator, the mountain of fear I carried everywhere. Martin Ford, he said, extending his hand. I took it automatically. His hand was large, warm, and calloused in a way that seemed at odds with the expensive suit. Cassie Mendez. It's nice to meet you, Cassie Mendez. He didn't let go of my hand immediately. Though I get the sense you're having a terrible evening. A laugh bubbled up, slightly hysterical. Is it that obvious? Only to someone paying attention. His thumb brushed across my knuckles once before he released my hand. Can I buy you a drink? You look like you could use one. I should have said no. Should have made an excuse and left before I embarrassed myself further. Instead, I heard myself say, that would be nice. Martin guided me to the bar with a hand at the small of my back, the touch light but somehow possessive. People moved out of his way, without seeming to realize they were doing it, like he carried an invisible force field of authority. What would you like? He asked. White wine. Whatever they have is fine. He ordered wine for me and whiskey for himself. Neat. We moved to a quieter corner of the ballroom, away from the dance floor and the crowds. So, Martin said, leaning against the wall with casual elegance. What brings you to this particular circle of hell? I laughed, surprised. It's not that bad. It's exactly that bad. Overpriced dinners. Forced networking. People competing to see who can flaunt their wealth most tastefully. He sipped his whiskey. I've been to 30 of these things, and they're all the same. Why do you come then? Business. He said it simply, like it explained everything. Maybe it did. What about you? Alumni invitation. I used to go to Hunter. Used to? The question was gentle, but I felt the weight of it anyway. Life got complicated. I had to make different choices. Martin nodded slowly. The man you were talking to earlier. The one in the navy suit with the blonde attachment. He's part of those complications. I stiffened. You were watching me? I was watching the room. His expression didn't change. I notice when someone looks like they've been kicked. You had that look when you walked away from him. The observation was so accurate it stole my breath. He's my ex, I admitted. We dated in college. It ended badly. Did he hurt you? The question was asked casually, but something in Martin's tone made me look at him more carefully. There was steel beneath the smooth surface. The sense that my answer mattered in ways I didn't fully understand. Not physically. Just, he made promises he didn't keep. And when things got difficult, he disappeared. Martin's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Men like that are cowards.
Yeah.
I took a long sip of wine. Yeah, they are. We stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the Gala swirl around us. You want to know something funny? I said, emboldened by wine and exhaustion and the strange anonymity of talking to a stranger. I almost didn't come tonight. I'm broke, I'm behind on rent, and I had to borrow a neighbor's babysitter just to be here for 3 hours. But I came because I thought, I don't know, I thought maybe he should see me, acknowledge what he walked away from. And, did he?
No.
The word came out bitter. He looked through me like I was invisible. Like I was an embarrassment he'd successfully erased from his life. Martin was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice had gone soft, almost dangerous. You're not invisible, Cassie. The way he said my name sent a shiver down my spine. And any man who can't see you is a fool who doesn't deserve the gift of your presence. I looked up at him, startled by the intensity in his expression. You don't even know me. I know enough. His gray-blue eyes held mine. I know you're here alone, dressed beautifully, trying to keep your head up while your ex parades his new life in front of you. I know you have a child you left with the babysitter. I know you're struggling, but you came anyway. That tells me everything I need to know about your strength. Tears pricked my eyes. When was the last time someone had seen me? Really seen me, beyond the struggle and exhaustion to the person underneath? Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me for stating facts. Martin finished his whiskey. Dance with me. It wasn't really a question. He set his glass down and extended his hand, waiting. I should have said no. Should have remembered that I needed to catch the last train back to Queens, that Emma would be waiting, that I didn't belong in this world anymore. Instead, I put my hand in his and let him lead me to the dance floor. Martin pulled me close, one hand at my waist, the other cradling my hand against his chest. He moved with the confident grace of someone who'd spent time in ballrooms, leading with subtle pressure that made following effortless. You're a good dancer, I said, surprised. I'm good at a lot of things. The corner of his mouth lifted. Dancing happens to be one of the more socially acceptable ones. I laughed and felt some of the tension drain from my shoulders. We swayed together, the orchestra playing something classic and romantic. Around us, other couples danced, but I barely noticed them. Martin's presence was overwhelming in the best way, solid and safe and real. Can I ask you something? He said after a moment. Sure. The babysitter. Is the father involved? I stiffened slightly.
No.
He made it clear he wanted nothing to do with us. Martin's hand tightened on my waist, just barely. His loss. That's what everyone says. Because it's true. He pulled back slightly to look at me. How old is your child?
5.
Her name is Emma. Emma. He said it carefully, like he was testing the weight of it. That's a beautiful name. She's a beautiful girl. My voice caught. The best thing that ever happened to me, even if the circumstances were awful. Then the circumstances don't matter. Only she does. The simplicity of the statement, the absolute certainty in his voice, made my chest tight. The song ended. Another began. We kept dancing. I lost track of time, lost in the movement and the warmth of Martin's body against mine. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like a person instead of just a problem to be solved. A woman instead of just a struggling single mother. Then I heard Derek's voice, sharp and too close. Cassie. Martin and I stopped moving. I turned to find Derek standing at the edge of the dance floor, Madison still attached to his arm. His expression was ugly, twisted with something between anger and embarrassment. I need to speak with you, Derek said. We're dancing, Martin replied before I could. His tone was pleasant, but there was an edge beneath it, like a blade wrapped in silk. This doesn't concern you, Derek snapped. Actually, it does. Martin's arm stayed firm around my waist. Cassie is with me this evening. So, any conversation you want to have with her goes through me first. Derek's face went red. Who the hell are you? Martin Ford. He said it simply, without emphasis. But something happened. Derek's eyes widened. The color drained from his face. Around us, I noticed other people turning, watching with sudden sharp interest. Mr. Ford. Derek's tone had changed completely, aggression replaced by something close to fear. I didn't realize. I'm sorry for the interruption. Apology noted. Martin's expression didn't change. Now, if you'll excuse us, I'm dancing with the most beautiful woman in the room. He turned us smoothly away from Derek, dismissing him as completely as Derek had dismissed me earlier. But the moment was broken. Reality crashed back in. The train schedule. Emma waiting. The impossibility of this entire evening. I should go, I said quietly. It's getting late. Martin studied my face. I'll take you home. That's not necessary. I can take the subway. Cassie. He said my name firmly. I'm taking you home. It's not a debate. Something in his tone told me arguing would be pointless. Okay. He kept his hand on the small of my back as we left the ballroom, guiding me through the crowds and out into the cool night air. A sleek black car waited at the curb, engine running, a driver standing at attention beside it. Queens, Martin told the driver as he opened the rear door for me. I slid into the back seat, and Martin followed. The interior was all leather and luxury, so far removed from the subway cars I usually rode that it felt like entering another dimension. You didn't have to do this, I said as we pulled away from the plaza. I know. Martin settled beside me, his arms stretched along the back of the seat behind my head. I wanted to. Why? He was quiet for a moment, his gray-blue eyes studying me in the dim light of passing street lamps. Because you deserved one night where someone treated you the way you should be treated. Like you matter. My throat tightened. I'm nobody, Martin. Just a struggling single mom trying to keep her head above water. You're not nobody to Emma. He reached over and took my hand. And you're not nobody to me. You don't even know me. Then let me get to know you. His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand. Have dinner with me.
Lunch. Coffee.
Whatever fits your schedule. I stared at him, stunned. You can't be serious. I'm always serious about things that matter. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I work at a diner in Brooklyn. I'm about to be evicted from my apartment. I pulled my hand away, sudden panic rising. You're clearly successful and wealthy, and way out of my league. This doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense to me. Martin didn't try to reclaim my hand, but his eyes didn't leave my face. I like you, Cassie. I'm interested in getting to know you better. The rest is just logistics. Just logistics, I repeated, slightly hysterical. My entire life is logistics. Then let me help with some of them. I don't need charity. I'm not offering charity. His voice was patient. I'm offering interest, attention, the chance to see where this goes. The car slowed, pulling up in front of my building in Queens. The The contrast between Martin's sleek vehicle and my rundown apartment building was almost comical. "This is me," I said unnecessarily. Martin looked at the building, his expression unreadable. Then he pulled a business card from his jacket pocket and pressed it into my hand. "My direct number.
Call me if you need anything.
Or if you just want to talk." "I can't." "You can." He leaned forward, and for a breathless moment, I thought he might kiss me. Instead, he pressed his lips to my forehead, the gesture unexpectedly tender. "Good night, Cassie." I fled from the car before I could do something stupid like cry, or beg him to stay, or believe that any of this could be real. Maria met me at the door with Emma asleep in her arms. "Did you have a nice time, Mija?" I looked down at the business card in my hand. Martin Ford. A phone number. Nothing else. No company name, no title. Just his name and a number, like the man himself was all the information anyone needed. "I don't know," I admitted. "I really don't know." But as I carried Emma to our makeshift bedroom and tucked her into the twin bed we shared, I kept the card clutched in my hand. And when I finally fell asleep, I dreamed of storm cloud eyes and a voice that made me feel, for just a moment, like I mattered. Sunday morning arrived with a pounding on my door that jolted me awake at 6:30. Emma stirred beside me, rubbing her eyes. "Mama, someone's knocking." "I know, baby. Stay here." I pulled on my robe and moved to the door, checking the peephole. Mrs. Chen stood in the hallway, her expression grim. My stomach sank. I opened the door a crack. "Mrs. Chen, I paid you half on Friday. You said I had 2 weeks." "Not about rent." She pushed a manila envelope through the gap. "This came for you yesterday. Special delivery. Man said it was urgent." I took the envelope, confusion replacing fear. "What man?" "Didn't give a name. Fancy suit. Big car waiting downstairs." Mrs. Chen's eyes narrowed. "You in some kind of trouble, Cassie?"
No.
"No trouble. Thank you, Mrs. Chen." I closed the door and stared at the envelope. Heavy paper. No return address. Just my name written in clean, efficient handwriting. Inside was a check.
Made out to me.
For $15,000. I stopped breathing. A note was paper-clipped to the check, written in the same precise handwriting. For Emma. No strings. No obligation. Just a gift from someone who thinks little girls deserve stability. MF. My hands shook so badly, I nearly dropped the check. $15,000. That was 3 months of rent paid in full. Daycare covered for half a year. Groceries. New clothes for Emma. A buffer between us and disaster. It was also impossible to accept. I looked at the business card I'd left on the counter last night, then at my phone. It was 6:45 on a Sunday morning. Too early to call. I called anyway. He answered on the second ring. "Cassie." Not a question. Like he'd been waiting for my call. Like he knew exactly why I was calling. "I can't accept this." "Good morning to you too." I could hear the smile in his voice. "Did you sleep well?" "Martin, I'm serious." $15,000? That's insane. It's a drop in the bucket to me and life-changing for you. Simple mathematics. It's not simple at all. I moved to the kitchen area, keeping my voice low so Emma wouldn't hear. "I barely know you. You can't just give me this kind of money." "I can, and I did." His tone was matter-of-fact. "The check is already written. You can cash it or not. Your choice. But if you don't, Emma's the one who suffers, and I don't think you want that." The ruthless practicality of the statement stole my argument. "Why are you doing this?" Martin was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice had softened. "Because when I was 7, my mother struggled to feed me. She worked 3 jobs. Went without meals, so I could eat. And I watched her break herself trying to provide, and I swore, if I ever had the means, I'd help women like her. Women like you." The raw honesty in his voice made my throat tight. "I'm not your responsibility." "No, you're not. But Emma deserves better than watching her mother destroy herself. So cash the check, Cassie. Pay your rent. Feed your daughter. And then, if you want, have dinner with me next week, so I can get to know you both properly." "Both." I want to meet Emma. If you're comfortable with that. My heart did something complicated in my chest. Derek had never wanted to meet Emma, had actively avoided any mention of her existence. She's 5. She asks a lot of questions. I like questions. I could hear the smile again. They mean someone's paying attention. Okay. The word came out before I could stop it. Okay, I'll cash the check. And we can have dinner. But Martin? Yes. If this is some kind of game, if you're trying to buy your way into something, I need you to tell me now. Because I can handle rejection. I can handle struggling. What I can't handle is someone using my daughter to get to me. It's not a game. His voice had gone serious. I don't play games, Cassie. Especially not with children involved. What I am is interested. Genuinely interested in getting to know you. And if that goes somewhere, good. If it doesn't, you still have a check that helps your situation. No expectations. No strings. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly it ached. Tuesday night. I heard myself say, 6 o'clock? There's a pizza place near my apartment that Emma loves. Text me the address. I'll be there. After we hung up, I stood holding the phone and the check, trying to process what had just happened. A man I'd met 12 hours ago had just given me enough money to change my life. No, not just any man. Martin Ford. A man who made Derek go pale with fear. A man whose car and driver waited at his command. A man who clearly operated in circles far removed from my diner shifts and overdue bills. Who was he really? I spent Sunday depositing the check, which cleared immediately to my shock, and paying Mrs. Chen in full. The relief on her face when I handed her the money made me realize how worried she'd been about having to evict us. Monday at the diner, Marco noticed my mood immediately. You're smiling. That's new. Things are looking up, I admitted, refilling the coffee station. Must have been some Gala Saturday night. He leaned against the counter, curiosity evident. You see that ex of yours? I did. And I met someone else. Someone who actually sees me. Marco's eyebrows rose. Someone good. I think so. I hope so. I grabbed a towel to wipe down tables. He's meeting Emma tomorrow night. Whoa, that's serious. You sure about this guy?
Was I?
I barely knew Martin Ford, but something in my gut said he was different. That his interest was real, not performance. I'm sure enough to try. Tuesday arrived with Emma bouncing off the walls with excitement. We're going to Tony's Pizza. She spun in circles in our tiny apartment. With your friend. His name is Martin. And yes, but you need to be on your best behavior, okay? That means using your manners and no climbing on things. I'm always good, Mama. You're always energetic. There's a difference. I dressed carefully in jeans and a simple blue sweater, nothing fancy, but clean and presentable. Emma wore her favorite dress, purple with white flowers, one of the few nice things she owned. We arrived at Tony's Pizza 15 minutes early. I was too nervous to be late. Martin was already there. He sat in a corner booth, and even in the casual setting of a neighborhood pizza joint, he looked expensive. Dark jeans that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. A gray Henley that emphasized his broad shoulders. His dark hair slightly mussed, like he'd run his fingers through it. He stood when he saw us, and I watched Emma's eyes go wide. He's really tall, Mama, she whispered.
He is.
Remember what we talked about? Polite and no climbing. Martin's expression when he saw Emma was something I'd remember forever. His storm cloud eyes softened, a genuine smile transforming his usually serious face. You must be Emma. He crouched down to her level, making himself less intimidating. I'm Martin. Your mom told me you're 5. Emma nodded, suddenly shy. She pressed against my leg. I'm 5.5, she corrected quietly. 5.5. That's very grown up. Martin glanced at me, a question in his eyes. I nodded permission. He looked back at Emma. Your mom also told me you love pizza. Is that true? It's my favorite. Emma's shyness was evaporating, curiosity taking over. Do you like pizza? I love pizza. What kind do you like best? Pepperoni. But Mama says we can only get cheese most times because pepperoni costs more. My face burned with embarrassment, but Martin didn't miss a beat. Well, tonight we're getting whatever you want. Pepperoni it is. We slid into the booth, Emma between us, chattering now about her daycare and her friend Sophia and the picture she'd drawn yesterday of a unicorn. Martin listened to all of it with genuine interest, asking questions that showed he was actually paying attention. When the pizza arrived, loaded with pepperoni just like Emma requested, her joy was so pure it made my chest ache. "This is the best pizza ever," she declared through a mouthful of cheese. "Emma, don't talk with your mouth full," I corrected gently. "Sorry, Mama." She swallowed, then looked at Martin with serious eyes. "Are you Mama's boyfriend?" I choked on my soda. "Emma, it's okay." Martin's lips twitched with amusement. "That's a fair question." He looked at Emma thoughtfully. "I'd like to be your Mama's friend. Is that okay with you? Do you make her smile?" The question caught both of us off guard. "I hope so," Martin said quietly. "Does she not smile a lot?" Emma shook her head, her expression too solemn for a 5-year-old. "She's always tired. And sometimes she cries at night when she thinks I'm sleeping." Tears burned behind my eyes. I didn't realize Emma had heard those moments. The nights when exhaustion and fear overwhelmed my careful control. Martin's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. "Well," he said to Emma, his voice warm, "maybe we can help her smile more.
You and me.
We can be a team." Emma's face lit up. "A team? Absolutely. We'll make sure your Mama knows how special she is. Deal?" Emma stuck out her small hand with complete seriousness.
Deal.
They shook on it, and I had to look away to hide the tears threatening to spill over. The rest of dinner passed in easy conversation. Emma showed Martin the pictures she'd drawn that she kept in her little backpack. He examined each one with careful attention, pointing out details and asking about her artistic choices. When Emma excused herself to use the bathroom, Martin turned to me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "She's remarkable," he said quietly. "Smart, observant, kind. You're doing an incredible job with her. I'm barely keeping us afloat. You're keeping her safe, fed, and happy despite impossible circumstances. That's not barely anything. That's everything." The intensity in his gray-blue eyes made it hard to breathe. "Martin, I need to know. What do you do? Who are you really?" He was quiet for a moment, and I saw him weighing something, deciding how much truth to share. "I run a business empire. Import, export, real estate, investments. Some of it exists in legal gray areas. Some of it is completely legitimate. I inherited most of it from my father, and I've been working to transition everything toward legitimacy." "Gray areas," I repeated carefully. "I won't lie to you, Cassie. My world can be dangerous. There are people who'd use anyone connected to me as leverage. That's something you need to know before this goes any further." My pulse quickened. "Is that why Derek looked so scared when he heard your name?" "Probably. My reputation precedes me in certain circles." Martin's hand tightened on mine. "I'm not a good man in the traditional sense, but I'm trying to be better. And I would never, ever let anything happen to you or Emma." I should have been terrified. Should have grabbed Emma and run. Instead, I asked, "What do you want from me?" "Honestly?" Martin's thumb traced circles on the back of my hand. "I want to see where this goes. I want to take you to dinner. Learn your favorite things. Make you laugh. Meet Emma's unicorn drawings collection properly." He paused. "I want to be part of your life, if you'll let me. That's all. That's everything." Emma returned then, climbing back into the booth with the fearlessness of childhood. "Martin, do you have kids?" she asked. "No, I don't." "Do you want kids?" "Emma," I warned. "It's okay." Martin smiled at her. "I never thought I did. But meeting you makes me think maybe I was wrong about that." The comment shouldn't have affected me the way it did. We'd known each other barely 48 hours. But something in my chest cracked open anyway, letting in dangerous hope. After pizza, Martin walked us back to our apartment building. Emma held his hand the entire way, chattering about everything and nothing. At our door, she surprised us both by hugging his legs. You're nice, she declared. I like you. I like you too, Emma. Martin crouched down again, bringing himself to her level. Thank you for sharing your mama with me tonight. You can come again, Emma said generously. Anytime. I'll take you up on that. After I got Emma settled for bed, I stepped back into the hallway where Martin waited. Thank you, I said quietly. For tonight.
For the check.
For everything. Stop thanking me. He moved closer, and I caught the scent of him, something clean and masculine with a hint of expensive cologne. I'm not doing this for gratitude. Then why? Because you walked into that gala alone, in a 3-year-old dress, with your head held high despite everything trying to knock you down. His hand came up to cup my cheek. Because you're raising an incredible little girl by yourself. Because when I look at you, I see strength and beauty and something real in a world full of artificial everything. Martin. He kissed me before I could finish. It was soft, questioning, giving me time to pull away. I didn't pull away. I leaned in, my hands coming up to grip his shirt, and kissed him back with all the longing and hope and terrifying possibility I'd been trying to suppress. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Martin rested his forehead against mine. I'm going to court you properly, he said. Dates, flowers, the whole thing. I want you to have no doubt about my intentions. And what are your intentions? To make you mine. If you'll have me. The possessive phrasing should have raised red flags. Instead, it made me feel safe. Wanted.
Seen.
Okay, I whispered. Let's see where this goes. Martin kissed me again, quick and hard, then forced himself to step back. I'll call you tomorrow. Lock the door behind me. I did, and stood there for a long moment afterward, my fingers touching my lips, wondering what I'd just started. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of carefully orchestrated dates and stolen moments. Martin seemed determined to integrate himself into our lives with a thoroughness that was both thrilling and slightly overwhelming. He showed up at the diner on Wednesday with takeout lunch from an Italian restaurant in Manhattan, insisting I take a proper break. Marco's eyes nearly popped out of his head when he saw who'd brought it. That's Martin Ford, he hissed as Martin left. Do you know who he is? I'm learning, I said carefully. Cassie, he's connected. Like, seriously connected. The kind of connected where people don't ask questions. I know. And you're okay with that?
Was I?
I searched my feelings and found that yes, surprisingly, I was. Martin had been nothing but honest about who he was and what his world entailed. He'd never lied, never pretended to be something he wasn't. He's good to Emma. He's good to me. That's what matters. Marco looked skeptical but dropped it. Friday, Martin sent a car to pick us up after my shift. Not for somewhere fancy, but for the Central Park Zoo. Emma was beside herself with excitement, pointing at every animal, asking a million questions that Martin answered with inexhaustible patience. Look, Mama.
Penguins.
Emma pressed her face against the glass of the penguin habitat. They're swimming. Martin crouched beside her, pointing out different species and explaining how they adapted to cold climates. He'd clearly done research before bringing us here. You're good with her, I said quietly as we watched Emma dart to the next exhibit. She makes it easy. She's curious about everything. Reminds me of myself at that age. Martin's hand found mine. Before the world got complicated. When did it get complicated for you? When I was 12. My father sat me down and explained what our family business really was. What I'd be inheriting.
His jaw tightened.
I didn't get a choice about being groomed for this life. But I can choose how I live it now. Is that why you're transitioning to legitimate business? Part of it. He looked at me, something vulnerable in his expression. The other part is you. Me? I want to build something clean. Something I'm not ashamed of. Something worthy of someone like you. He squeezed my hand. You make me want to be better, Cassie. Before I could respond, Emma came running back. Can we see the sea lions? Please, please, please. Lead the way, Martin said, and let her drag him off by the hand. That night, after Emma fell asleep exhausted from the zoo adventure, Martin and I sat on the small couch in my apartment, talking in low voices. I need to tell you something, Martin said, his expression serious. About Derek. My stomach tightened. What about him? I had him investigated. Standard procedure when someone from my past or present shows concern. He pulled out a tablet showing me a document. Derek Williams works for Chandler and Associates. Mid-level analyst. Makes decent money, but nowhere near what he pretends. Why would you investigate him? Because he upset you.
Because he has a history with you.
Because I needed to know if he'd be a problem. Martin's voice was calm, matter of fact. And according to this, he's got gambling debts. Significant ones. I stared at the numbers on the screen. $70,000? To the wrong people. The kind of people who break fingers when they don't get paid. Martin closed the tablet. I'm telling you this because men with that kind of debt get desperate. And desperate men make dangerous choices. You think he'd come after me? I think he saw you at the gala with me. I think word has gotten around about our connection. And I think someone desperate enough might try to use that for leverage. Martin's gray-blue eyes were serious. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to prepare you. What do? You let me handle it. And you accept the security I'm going to assign to you. Security? Martin, that's extreme. It's necessary. His tone left no room for argument. A driver who'll take you to and from work. Someone watching your building. Nothing intrusive, but enough to ensure you and Emma stay safe. The reality of his world was crashing into mine in ways I hadn't fully anticipated. This is really your life, I said quietly. Investigations and security and threats. Yes. He didn't sugarcoat it. This is my life. And I understand if it's too much. If you want to walk away now, I'll still make sure you're protected until the situation with Derek resolves. No strings. I looked at Emma sleeping peacefully in our shared bed. Thought about the past 2 weeks of Martin's attention, his kindness to my daughter, the way he made me feel like I mattered. I don't want to walk away. Relief flooded Martin's expression. You're sure? I'm terrified, but I'm sure. I took his hand. Just promise me you'll always be honest. No matter how bad the truth is. I promise. He kissed me then, deep and thorough, and I let myself fall into it. Let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, this impossible thing could work. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. The security Martin had promised arrived Monday morning in the form of a polite but intimidating man named James. He was 40-something, built like a tank, with the watchful eyes of someone who'd seen combat. Ma'am. He nodded respectfully. Mr. Ford asked me to drive you and your daughter to daycare and work. I'll be available whenever you need transportation. This really isn't necessary. Mr. Ford was very clear, ma'am. I'm here to help make your life easier, not to intrude. It took 3 days before I stopped feeling self-conscious about James driving us around in the town car. Emma loved it, pretending she was a princess being chauffeured to her castle. At the diner, Marco's concerned looks intensified when he saw my new arrangement. You're in deep, aren't you? He said during a lull in the lunch rush. Deeper than I planned. Just be careful, Cassie. Men like Martin Ford, they're not like regular guys. Their problems become your problems. I know. But I didn't really know. Not yet. The first hint of real trouble came Wednesday afternoon. I was wiping down tables when Derek walked into the diner. My stomach dropped. The diner was my space, my territory. He had no business being here. Cassie. He slid into a booth, his expression cold. We need to talk. I'm working. You need to leave. I'll leave after we talk. He leaned back, trying to project confidence, but I could see the desperation underneath. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. He looked like a man coming apart. 5 minutes, I said, sliding into the booth across from him. Then you leave and never come back here. I heard you're seeing Martin Ford. That's none of your business. It becomes my business when his name is being thrown around as the reason I can't get certain loans. Derek's voice rose slightly. Do you have any idea who he is? What he does? I know exactly who he is. Then you know he's dangerous. connected to organized crime. The kind of man who destroys people who get in his way. Derek leaned forward. Is that really the example you want around, Emma? The invocation of my daughter's name made anger flare hot in my chest. You lost the right to have opinions about Emma when you walked away. When you denied she existed. When you erased us from your life. I kept my voice low but steady. Martin has been kinder to her in 2 weeks than you've been in her entire life. I can change. I want to be involved now.
Now?
After 5 years? Why now, Derek? He looked away, guilt and calculation warring in his expression. Because I made a mistake. Because she's my daughter.
No.
The word came out hard. She's my daughter. You're just the sperm donor who ran away when things got difficult. Derek's face twisted. You're going to regret this.
Getting involved with Ford.
He's going to drag you down, and when he does, don't come crying to me. I wouldn't come to you if you were the last person on earth. I stood. Get out of my diner, Derek. And stay away from me and Emma. You think you're safe with him? You think he actually cares about you? Derek stood too, his voice getting louder. Your project to him. Charity case. The second he gets bored, you'll be back here slinging coffee, except this time you'll have made enemies you can't afford. I said get out. My hand moved to my apron pocket where I kept my phone. Or what? You'll call your boyfriend? Have him send his thugs after me? Is there a problem here? James appeared in the doorway of the diner, his presence immediately commanding attention. Derek went pale.
No.
No problem. I was just leaving. Good idea. James didn't move, just watched Derek with the coiled readiness of a predator. Derek practically ran from the diner. You okay, ma'am? James asked once Derek was gone.
Yes.
Thank you. My hands were shaking. How did you know? I'm always watching. He said it simply. Mr. Ford was very clear about potential threats. Your ex-boyfriend is at the top of the list. The rest of my shift passed in a blur of nervous energy. When Martin called that evening, I told him everything. He came to your workplace. Martin's voice had gone dangerously quiet. He confronted you. James handled it. I'm fine. You're not fine. I can hear it in your voice. A pause. I'm coming over. Martin, you don't have to. I'm already in the car. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He arrived in 15, and the second he walked through my door, he pulled me into his arms. Tell me exactly what he said. I recounted the conversation, and with each word, I felt Martin's arms tighten around me. He's escalating, Martin said grimly. The gambling debts are getting worse. He's looking for any angle to get money. You think he'd try to use Emma? I think he'd try to use you both. Martin pulled back to look at me. Which is why I'm moving you out of this apartment. What? You and Emma. I have a property in Manhattan. Top floor, security that rivals Fort Knox. You'll be safer there. Martin, I can't just move into your place. It's not my place. It's a property I own. Separate building, separate entrance. Your own space. His hands framed my face. Cassie, please. Let me do this. Let me keep you safe. This is moving so fast. I know. And if circumstances were different, I'd take months to earn your trust properly. But circumstances aren't different. Your ex is desperate and dangerous. And I won't take chances with your safety. I thought about Derek's face at the diner. The calculation behind his desperation. The way he'd mentioned Emma. Okay. I heard myself say. Okay, we'll move. But temporarily. Until Derek's situation resolves. Temporarily, Martin agreed, though something in his expression suggested he had other plans. When? This weekend. I'll have movers handle everything. You and Emma just need to pack personal items. It was happening too fast, like being caught in a current too strong to fight. But as Martin held me, as I felt the solid safety of his presence, I couldn't bring myself to resist. Maybe that should have scared me more than it did. The apartment Martin had secured for us was on the Upper West Side, 3 bedrooms in a pre-war building with crown molding and hardwood floors that gleamed under crystal light fixtures. Emma's reaction when she saw her new bedroom made tears spring to my eyes. Mama, look. My own room. She spun in circles, taking in the space that was larger than our entire previous apartment. And it has a window. And a closet. Do you like it, baby? I love it. She threw her arms around my waist. Can I really have this room? Just for me. Just for you. Martin watched from the doorway, and when I met his eyes, I saw satisfaction there. Not smug ownership, but genuine happiness at making Emma smile. My room was down the hall, similarly spacious with an ensuite bathroom and a view of the tree-lined street below. The furniture was tasteful, but not ostentatious. Comfortable, without being intimidating. The third bedroom is an office if you want it, Martin said. Or another guest room. Whatever you need. Martin, this is too much. It's safety. That's all that matters. He moved closer, his hands settling on my waist. Are you angry?
No.
Overwhelmed. There's a difference. Good overwhelmed or bad overwhelmed? I considered the question honestly. Scary overwhelmed. The kind where I don't know if I'm making a huge mistake or the best decision of my life. For what it's worth, Martin said quietly, I hope it's the latter. Because having you and Emma here, knowing you're protected, it's the first time I've slept properly in days. You've been worried, terrified. The admission was raw. The thought of something happening to either of you, because of your connection to me, kept me up at night. I reached up to touch his face, feeling the stubble on his jaw. We're here now. We're safe. You are. He turned his head to kiss my palm. And I'm going to make sure it stays that way. That night, after Emma fell asleep in her new bedroom clutching Mr. Hoppy, Martin and I sat on my new couch drinking wine. I need to tell you something, Martin said. About Derek's debts. What about them? I bought them. I stared at him. You what? I purchased his gambling debts from the people he owed. As of this morning, Derek Williams owes me $73,000. Martin, why would you do that? Because now I control the timeline, the pressure, the consequences. His gray-blue eyes were steady. He can't hurt you if I'm the one holding the leverage. What are you going to do to him? Nothing, if he stays away from you. If he doesn't. Martin shrugged. Then he'll learn that coming after what's mine has consequences. There it was again. That possessive word.
Mine.
I'm not a possession, Martin. No, you're not. He set his wineglass down and turned to face me fully. You're the woman I'm falling in love with. The woman whose daughter calls me when she has nightmares because she knows I'll answer. The woman who makes me want to build something better than what I inherited. He took my hand. You're everything, Cassie. And I will burn the world down before I let anyone hurt you. The intensity of the declaration should have terrified me. Instead, it made me feel seen.
Valued.
Protected in ways I'd never experienced. I'm falling in love with you too, I whispered. And that scares me more than anything. Why? Because I have Emma to think about. If this doesn't work out, it's not just my heart that breaks. It's hers too. Martin pulled me into his lap, his arms wrapping around me securely. Then we make it work, no matter what it takes. He kissed me, deep and possessive and full of promises I desperately wanted to believe. When he finally left, hours later, I stood at the window watching his car disappear into the night. Emma was safe in her new bedroom. I was in an apartment I could never afford on my own. And I was completely, terrifyingly dependent on a man I'd known less than a month. But as I touched my lips, still tingling from his kisses, I couldn't bring myself to regret any of it. Not yet, anyway. 3 weeks passed in the new apartment, and I felt myself settling into a rhythm that seemed impossible. Emma thrived with the stability, her laughter filling spaces that had been silent for too long. My shifts at the diner continued, but Martin had quietly arranged for my schedule to be more manageable, giving me mornings with Emma and evenings that didn't stretch past midnight. I should have questioned it more. Should have maintained more distance. But every time I tried to establish boundaries, Martin would do something that crumbled my resolve. Show up with Emma's favorite ice cream after a hard day. Remember that I liked my coffee with 2 sugars and a splash of cream. Sit on the floor with Emma building elaborate block towers without a trace of impatience. He was integrating himself into our lives with the thoroughness of someone who planned to stay. Mama, can Martin come to the school thing? Emma asked one morning over breakfast. What school thing? The family day. Next Friday. Miss Rodriguez sent a paper home. She dug in her backpack, producing a crumpled flyer. It says families can come see our classroom and meet the teachers. My heart sank. Family Day. The kind of event designed for two-parent households with station wagons and matching sweaters. Not single mothers juggling shift work and survival. Baby, I have to work Friday. Emma's face fell.
Oh.
That's okay, Mama. But it wasn't okay. I could see the disappointment she was trying to hide, the resignation that she'd be one of the few kids without anyone there. I'll talk to Martin, I heard myself say. Maybe he can take time off work to come with you. Emma's entire face lit up. Really? You think he will? I think if you ask him, he'd move mountains. When I called Martin that afternoon, he answered on the first ring, as always. Martin, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest if it's too much.
Ask.
I explained about Family Day, about Emma's request, about my work schedule that I couldn't change without losing the shift. I'll be there, Martin said immediately. What time? 10 o'clock. But Martin, you don't have to. Cassie, stop. His voice was gentle but firm. I want to be there.
Emma asked for me.
That's not an obligation, it's an honor. Tears pricked my eyes. Derek never came to anything. Even when we were together, he always had excuses. I'm not Derek. The steel in his voice was unmistakable. Send me the details. I'll clear my schedule. Thank you. Stop thanking me for wanting to be part of your lives. That conversation should have been a warning. Should have told me I was in too deep, that I'd let this man become essential to my daughter's happiness. But I ignored the warning signs, too grateful for his presence to question the speed at which we were moving. Thursday night, I was closing the diner when Marco pulled me aside. Someone was here asking about you today, he said quietly. Guy in his 30s, khaki pants, looked nervous. Asked what time you worked, if you had family, when you usually left. My blood went cold. What did you tell him? Nothing. Told him to get lost. Marco's expression was concerned. But Cassie, he knew your full name. Knew you had a daughter. This wasn't random. Did he say what he wanted?
No.
But he kept checking his phone like he was reporting to someone. Marco grabbed my arm gently. You need to tell Martin about this. I will. But when I called Martin, it went straight to voicemail. Unusual, but not unheard of when he was in meetings. I left a message explaining what Marco had told me, then collected my things to head home. James was waiting outside as usual, the town car idling at the curb. Everything okay, ma'am? He asked, noting my expression. Someone was asking questions about me at work today. Martin's not answering his phone. James's face went hard. Get in the car. I'm taking you straight home, and I'm posting additional security on your building tonight. The drive back to the Upper West Side felt longer than usual, every shadow seeming threatening. James kept checking the mirrors, his hand never far from the weapon I knew he carried. At the apartment, he walked me to the door personally. Lock everything. Don't answer for anyone except Mr. Ford or me. Understood? Understood. Inside, Maria, the nanny Martin had hired to watch Emma during my shifts, greeted me with a smile. She's asleep. Sweet as always. Maria gathered her things. Same time tomorrow. Yes, thank you, Maria. After she left, I checked all the locks twice, then went to Emma's room. She was sprawled across her bed, Mr. Hoppy tucked under one arm, her face peaceful in sleep. I stood there watching her breathe, terror clawing at my chest. Someone was asking about us. Derek's desperation was escalating, and Martin wasn't answering his phone. My phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. We need to talk about your daughter's future. The coffee shop on Amsterdam and 78th, tomorrow, 2 p.m.
Come alone.
My hands shook so badly, I nearly dropped the phone. Another text. Don't involve Ford. This is between you and Derek. Unless you want things to get complicated. I should have called James. Should have waited for Martin. But the mention of Emma made rational thought impossible. I texted back. How do I know this isn't a trap? Unknown, you don't. But if you care about Emma's safety, you'll come. And you'll come alone. I spend the night pacing, checking on Emma every 20 minutes, jumping at every sound. Martin's voicemail box was full. James texted that everything was secure, but the additional security was in place. By morning, I'd made my decision. I would go to the meeting, but I wouldn't go completely unprepared. Friday morning arrived with Emma bouncing around the apartment, excited about family day. Is Martin still coming? She asked for the 5th time. Yes, baby. He'll pick you up at school at 9:30. And we get to show him my classroom. And my drawings. And Miss Rodriguez wants to meet all the families. Her joy was pure and uncomplicated, and it made my chest ache with how much I'd put at risk by getting involved with Martin. I dropped Emma at school, kissed her goodbye, and headed to my shift at the diner. At 1:30, I told Marco I was taking my break and slipped out the back entrance. The coffee shop on Amsterdam was small and crowded with the lunch rush. I scanned the space, looking for Derek. Instead, I saw Madison, his fiancée. She sat in a corner booth, designer handbag on the table, her expression cold and calculating. Nothing like the vapid girlfriend from the Gala. Sit down, Cassie. It wasn't a request. I slid into the booth across from her, every instinct screaming that I'd made a terrible mistake. Where's Derek? Not here. This is between you and me. Madison folded her hands on the table. You're going to break things off with Martin Ford. I blinked. Excuse me? You heard me. You're going to end your relationship with Martin Ford, return to your normal life, and stay away from him. And why would I do that? Madison's smile was razor sharp. Because Derek's gambling debts? The ones Martin bought? Those weren't really Derek's debts. They were mine. My stomach dropped. Derek is my front. My access point to certain financial circles. She leaned forward. I've been running a very lucrative operation using his name and credentials. When Martin Ford started poking around, buying up debts, he didn't realize he was stepping on the toes of someone much more dangerous than a desperate analyst. Who are you really? Someone who doesn't appreciate interference. And your boyfriend's interest in you has made him sloppy. Distracted. He's been focusing on protecting his little charity case instead of watching his actual business. Madison pulled out her phone, showing me a photo that made my blood freeze.
Emma.
At school. Taken this morning. Touch her, and I'll kill you myself, I said, my voice deadly quiet. Brave words for someone with no power. Madison put the phone away. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell Martin that this was a mistake. That you can't handle his world. That you want to go back to your simple life. He'll never believe that. Then make him believe it.
Cry.
Be dramatic. Do whatever you need to do. Madison's eyes were flat and cold. Because if you don't, that precious little girl becomes leverage. And I promise you, Cassie, you don't want me using children as bargaining chips. What do you really want? This isn't about me and Martin. Smart girl. Madison's smile turned genuine for the first time. I want Martin distracted and vulnerable for the next 72 hours. There's a business deal going down, territories being redistributed. If Martin is focused on comforting his heartbroken girlfriend, he won't notice until it's too late. You're planning to move against him. I'm planning to take what should have been mine in the first place. Madison stood, smoothing her designer dress. You have until 6 o'clock tonight to end things with Martin Ford. After that, Emma becomes fair game. She walked out of the coffee shop, leaving me sitting there with my world crumbling around me. I made it back to the diner bathroom before I threw up. Marco found me there, sitting on the floor, trying to breathe. Jesus, Cassie. What happened? I need to call James. My phone was ringing. Martin. I answered with shaking hands. Cassie, where are you? I just got all your messages from last night. I'm so sorry, my phone died during meetings and… Martin, we need to talk. I know. I'm on my way to the school now for Emma's family day. Can it wait an hour?
Emma.
He was going to be with Emma. She was safe as long as he was there. No, it can't wait. Don't go to the school. Come to my apartment.
Right now.
Something in my tone must have alarmed him. Cassie, what's wrong? Just come. Please. I left the diner, ignoring Marco's protests. James drove me home in tense silence, his eyes constantly checking the mirrors. At the apartment, I paced until I heard the key in the lock. Martin let himself in, and the second I saw him, I almost broke. He was wearing a navy suit, clearly having come straight from business meetings. But he'd loosened his tie, and he carried a small bag that I knew contained the flowers Emma had asked him to bring for Miss Rodriguez. Cassie, what's happened? He crossed to me immediately, his hands framing my face. You're shaking. We need to end this, I said, forcing the words past the lump in my throat. This thing between us. It's moving too fast, and I can't do it anymore. Martin went very still. What are you talking about?
This.
I gestured around the apartment. The security, the apartment, you being involved with Emma. It's too much, too fast. I need space. Cassie, look at me. His voice was calm, but I could see the storm building behind his gray-blue eyes. What really happened? Did someone threaten you?
No.
I realized that I'm not cut out for your world. The danger, the complications. I want a normal life for Emma. Stop lying to me. His hands tightened on my face, gentle but firm. I can see it in your eyes. Someone got to you. Who was it? Martin, please. Just accept that this isn't working.
No.
The word was flat, absolute. I know you, Cassie. I know when you're scared. And right now, you're terrified. He pulled out his phone. James, get up here. Now. Martin, don't. Tell me what happened or I'll tear this city apart looking for answers. The steel in his voice broke through my composure. I started crying, the story spilling out in broken sentences. The text messages. Madison. The photo of Emma. The threat. The ultimatum. With every word, Martin's expression went darker. When I finished, he was utterly calm in a way that was more terrifying than rage. James, he said as the security chief entered. I need eyes on Emma immediately. Full lockdown protocol at the school. No one in or out except me and verified personnel. On it. James was already on his radio, barking orders. Martin turned back to me, and I saw something in his face that made my breath catch. Not anger at me, but absolute, lethal focus. Madison Reeves, he said quietly. I should have dug deeper. Should have realized Derek was too stupid to run the kind of operation that created those debts. You know her? I know of her family. Old money with new ambitions. She's been trying to move into my territories for 6 months. His jaw clenched. Using Derek as a front was clever. Using you and Emma as leverage was a fatal mistake. Martin. She has people watching Emma?
Had.
Past tense. He showed me his phone where security footage showed 3 men being quietly detained by what looked like an entire tactical team outside Emma's school. I had additional security on her the second you mentioned someone asking questions. Madison's watchers are currently being questioned. Relief made my knees weak. She's safe. She's safe. I'm going to get her now, and then I'm going to handle Madison Reeves. He pulled me close, pressing a hard kiss to my forehead. And Cassie? You're not ending anything. You're mine. Emma is mine, and anyone who threatens that learns what happens when they come after what belongs to me. The possessiveness in his voice should have bothered me. Instead, it made me feel safe for the first time since Madison had shown me that photo. What are you going to do? What I should have done weeks ago. Remind everyone in this city why my name makes people nervous. He kissed me properly then, deep and claiming. Stay here. James will be with you. I'll be back with Emma within the hour. Martin, be careful. Always am. He smiled, and it was the smile of a predator who'd just located his prey. Besides, I'm not the one who should be worried. The next 3 hours were the longest of my life. James stayed with me, his presence solid and reassuring. He received constant updates through his earpiece, occasionally relaying information. Emma is secure. Mr. Ford collected her from school. They're heading to a safe location. Madison Reeves has been located. Mr. Ford is en route. Situation contained. Everyone is safe. It wasn't until 7 o'clock that my phone rang. Martin, are you okay? I asked immediately. I'm perfect. More importantly, the threat is neutralized. Madison Reeves is currently explaining her business operations to some very interested federal authorities. Federal authorities? Turns out, when you dig into someone's operation thoroughly enough, you find all kinds of interesting irregularities. Tax evasion, wire fraud, conspiracy. Madison will be spending the next 10 to 20 years in prison. His voice held grim satisfaction. And Derek? He's cooperating fully in exchange for immunity. Last I heard, he was boarding a plane to somewhere with a lot of beaches and very little extradition. He's just gone and never coming back. Part of his deal includes staying out of New York permanently and relinquishing any parental rights he might have claimed. The words took a moment to sink in. Parental rights? I had my lawyers draw up paperwork. Derek signed everything. As far as the law is concerned, he's no longer Emma's father. Just a sperm donor who walked away. Martin, I don't understand. Why would he agree to that? Because the alternative was much worse. Martin's voice went soft. Cassie, I'm not a good man. We've established that. But I take care of what's mine. And Emma is mine now. Mine to protect, mine to provide for, mine to love. If you'll let me. Tears streamed down my face. Where is she? Right here. Want to talk to her? Mama. Emma's voice came through the phone, bright and happy. Mama, we had the best day. Martin came to school, and Miss Rodriguez said he was very polite, and we showed him everything, and then we went to the park and had ice cream, and Martin said we're having a special celebration tonight. That sounds wonderful, baby. Are you having fun? The best fun. But Mama, Martin said I could ask you something important. My heart stuttered. What's that? He said maybe he could be my dad. Like, for real. Not just Mama's friend. Emma's voice went shy. Would that be okay? Can Martin be my daddy? I looked at James, who was studiously pretending not to listen while a small smile played at his lips. Put Martin back on the phone, baby. Okay. Bye, Mama. Love you. Martin's voice returned. Before you say anything, let me explain. Are you proposing through my 5-year-old? I'm proposing through our 5-year-old. He paused. Cassie, I know this is fast. I know we haven't known each other long. But I've never been more certain of anything in my life. I want to marry you. I want to adopt Emma. I want to build a family with you. Martin. I love you. I love Emma. And I'm asking you to take a chance on something that might seem crazy, but feels more right than anything I've ever done. His voice was steady, certain. Marry me, Cassie. Let me be Emma's father. Let me take care of you both for the rest of my life. I thought about the past month. The speed at which we'd moved. The danger we'd faced. The way Martin had stepped in without hesitation when my ex threatened us. The way he looked at Emma like she was precious. The way he made me feel seen and valued. Yes. Silence on the other end. Yes. Martin's voice was rough with emotion. You're saying yes? I'm saying yes. To all of it. The marriage, the adoption, the crazy fast timeline. I laughed through my tears. Yes, Martin. I'll marry you. We're coming home.
Right now.
Don't move. The call ended, and I stood there in the apartment that had become home, holding my phone and shaking with laughter and tears. James cleared his throat. Congratulations, ma'am. Mr. Ford is a good man. He'll take care of you both. I know. 20 minutes later, the door burst open and Emma ran in, launching herself at me. Mama, you said yes. Martin said you said yes. I caught her, holding her tight as Martin followed, carrying bags from what looked like an expensive department store. I bought a ring, he said, setting down the bags. Several, actually, since I didn't know your size or preference. But Emma insisted on helping choose. He knelt down, opening a small velvet box. Inside was a stunning sapphire surrounded by diamonds, elegant, but not ostentatious. Emma said you liked blue, Martin explained. And this one reminded me of your eyes when you laugh. It's perfect. He slid it onto my finger, and it fit perfectly.
Of course it did.
Martin was thorough about details. "There's more," Martin said, standing. I took the liberty of starting Emma's adoption paperwork. "If you're comfortable with it, I'd like to finalize it as quickly as possible." "He's going to be my real daddy," Emma said, bouncing on her toes. "And I can call him Daddy instead of Martin." "If that's okay," Martin added quickly, looking at me. "I don't want to push." I kissed him, cutting off his words. When I pulled back, I was smiling through tears. "It's more than okay. It's perfect." Emma squealed and threw her arms around both of us, creating a group hug that felt like coming home. 6 months later, I stood in Martin's penthouse apartment, adjusting Emma's flower girl dress. She looked like a princess in pale blue silk, her curls pinned back with small white roses. "Mama, you look so pretty," she said, touching a lace of my wedding dress with reverent fingers. The dress was simple ivory lace with a fitted bodice and flowing skirt. Nothing like the emerald gown I'd worn to the gala where this had all started. This was better. This was real. "Thank you, baby. Are you ready?" "Ready. I get to walk first and throw flowers, and then you come, and then we're all a family for real." The ceremony was small, held in the penthouse with just close friends and family. Maria was there, crying happy tears. Marco from the diner, looking uncomfortable in a suit but grinning. James and the security team, standing at attention. And Jennifer, my old college roommate, who'd sent that fateful gala invitation. Martin stood at the makeshift altar, devastating in a dark suit, his gray-blue eyes locked on me as I walked toward him with Emma skipping ahead, throwing rose petals with enthusiastic abandon. When I reached him, he took my hands, and I saw his eyes were wet. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," he whispered. "You're not so bad yourself." The ceremony was simple but perfect. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Emma shouted, "No way. They're getting married, and we're a family." Everyone laughed, and Martin swept her up into his arms while still holding my hand. "Smart girl," he said, kissing her forehead. "Very smart girl." We said our vows, exchanged rings, and when Martin kissed me, Emma cheered so loudly that the whole room joined in. The reception was dinner and dancing, champagne and cake. At one point, Martin took the microphone. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Most of you know my story, know where I came from, and what I've done to get here." He looked at me, his expression soft. "What you might not know is that 6 months ago, I was a man going through the motions, building an empire but not really living. Then I met a woman in an emerald dress who was brave enough to stand tall in a room full of people who'd written her off." He gestured for me to join him. Cassie didn't need me to save her. She was saving herself just fine. What she needed was someone who saw her strength and chose to stand beside her instead of in front of her. He pulled me close. She made me want to be better, to build something worth leaving behind. And she gave me the greatest gift I could imagine. He looked at Emma, who was dancing with James to a Taylor Swift song. "She gave me a family." I was crying. Everyone was crying. "So here's to my wife." Martin raised his glass. "The strongest woman I know. And to my daughter, who reminds me every day what really matters." The toast was echoed around the room, and I buried my face in Martin's chest, overwhelmed with joy. Later, when Emma had fallen asleep in one of the guest rooms and the last guests had left, Martin and I stood on the balcony overlooking the city. "Do you regret it?" he asked quietly. "Moving this fast? Marrying someone you've known less than a year?" I thought about the eviction notice that had started this journey, about Derek's cruelty and Madison's threats, about all the fear and uncertainty. Then I thought about Emma's laughter, about feeling safe for the first time in years, about waking up next to someone who chose me every single day. "Not even a little bit," I said. Martin pulled me close, and we stood there watching the city lights twinkle below us. "I love you, Mrs. Ford. I love you too." And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I wasn't just surviving. I was living. Epilogue, 2 years later. "Daddy, Daddy, watch me." Emma, now 7, hung upside down from the monkey bars in Central Park, her dark curls swinging. Martin looked up from the bench where we sat, his hand wrapped around mine. I'm watching. Very impressive. I can go higher. Please don't. I called out, maternal anxiety kicking in. Martin laughed and squeezed my hand. She's got your fearlessness. And your stubborn streak. Fair point. I leaned against his shoulder, watching our daughter play. The adoption had been finalized a year ago, and Emma had started calling Martin Daddy immediately. Derek was a distant memory, somewhere in Thailand last we'd heard, avoiding extradition and living off whatever money he'd managed to hide. Madison Reeves was serving 15 years in federal prison. Her operation had been more extensive than anyone realized, and when the full extent was revealed, it had sent shockwaves through the financial district. Martin had kept his promise about transitioning to legitimate business. The empire he'd inherited was slowly, but surely becoming something he could be proud of. Real estate development, charitable foundations, investments in companies doing actual good. We weren't perfect. We still had moments where his world crashed into our life in uncomfortable ways. But we faced them together, and that made all the difference. Mama, I'm hungry. Then let's get lunch. I stood, holding out my hand to Emma as she ran over. What do you want? Pizza. Tony's Pizza. Martin groaned good-naturedly. We've eaten there 3 times this week. But it's the best. Emma grabbed both our hands, swinging between us. Please, Daddy. How can I say no to that face? He kissed the top of her head. Tony's it is. As we walked through the park, Emma chattering about her day at school, I felt Martin's hand tighten around mine. What? I asked. Just thinking about how different life was 2 years ago. You were struggling. Emma was eating dry cereal for breakfast. And I was going through the motions. And now I have everything. He stopped walking, turning to face me. Everything that matters, anyway. Daddy, come on. Emma tugged his hand. I'm starving. Coming, princess. We continued walking, and I thought about the woman I'd been at that gala. Desperate, exhausted, trying to hold her head up while the world told her she wasn't enough. That woman would have been amazed at who she became, who she married, the life she built from the ashes of failure. Sometimes the best things come from our darkest moments. Sometimes the person who saves us is the one we never saw coming. And sometimes, a single night in an emerald dress changes everything. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.